So this is the induction session for our CIOB program. This is going to be round about an hour, as most of our webinars will be. Obviously, mentioned to Mike there, I had a number of quite pleasant trips down to Cork year before last to take a class down there, and another one over to Kenmare for KPH there. And in the days when I used to travel the country delivering this, obviously since last March, we've changed everything. I have to be honest and say that 90% of the people, ourselves included, find this a better way of delivering the training because of the 1 hour bite-size session. So instead of grabbing you away from the office for a day a month, we're going to grab you for an hour a week, and once a month we'll grab you for a second hour. And what that means is, with all the sessions being recorded, if you miss a session, you've only got an hour to catch up on. So, who knows what your diary is going to be like in a few weeks' time. If there's a session that you can't make live, I always would suggest you try and make the sessions live, but an hour is not too bad to catch up on. Make yourself a cup of coffee, stick the video on, and just watch what you've missed on any session. So what we're going to go through this morning, say it's going to be 45 minutes, an hour, something in that region. Just tell you a little bit about training LMS and the people that you're going to be meeting, tell you a little bit about CIOB, ultimately that's the organization that you're joining, tell you some more about the course itself, give you a little bit of detail about what we call the project scenario. So there's a little fictional project and set of drawings that we use as a background for the teaching and also for the coursework. I'll tell you a little bit more about the coursework that will be expected from you, and the assessment that is carried out at the end of the course. I'll highlight some useful resources for you. There's a couple of textbooks that I will suggest to you throughout the duration of the course, but they are by no means essential that you purchase. The majority of materials that you need for this will be what we deliver during the courses and websites that we direct you to. I'll just confirm the dates and times, the provisional dates and times that we have scheduled for you. I'll mention very briefly the final thing that you have to do to get your chartership, which is the professional review. And then I'll explain the very simple one-page form that you have to fill in, which I'll send over to you later today, which will get you access to the course website and all of the materials. So that's what we're going to go through. Feel free to stop me as we go, but also I will leave questions and answers at the end as well if there's anything that's not clear as we go through. So the team, first of all, LMS, if you didn't know, stands for Leaders, Managers and Supervisors. So we very specifically aim construction management training at people who want to be in more responsible roles or working towards that. Anything from your sort of junior site supervisor right up to we take people through fellowship applications, managing directors of companies at the very highest level. We're all from a construction background. We've all worked in contracting. So you will find the emphasis is very much not about academic stuff. It's about real world. Here's how we deal with issues. So I worked in a family construction business for years, which involved everything from labouring on sites to running the business for a few years. I then went into consultancy, and back in 2011, myself and a gentleman called Alan McMullen, we founded Training LMS. It will be myself and Paul Andrews who will anchor most of the presentations. You will see a lot of me, quite a lot of Paul, and then I have one or two guest speakers in. So I have a fire safety expert in to do a session. I have a colleague of mine who does environmental for a couple of sessions. I have a construction solicitor who comes in and talks in one of the sessions. But it's myself and Paul who anchor most of it, and we're the two that you'll see the most of. When you complete this course next summer, you have one final thing to do, which is to fill in an application form called your professional review. That's not anything academic. That is just you detailing your career experience to date. The good news on that is that not only do we help you with that, but we are also sign off on that. So Brian McMullen and Jared Graham are our two professional review assessors, and one of them will help you with the form and the other one will carry out the formal assessment on it. So those are the four people, myself and Paul, through to next June, and then Brian and Jared will take over just to get you through your final stage. we cover UK and Ireland. You'll know some of the companies up there. I'll add a few of your own in there as we move on. But we work with main contractors, subcontractors, clients, housing associations, the health service, building inspectors, you name it. Just about anybody to do with construction are interested in going for CIOB. So from the biggest companies to the one-man band, self-employed people. We started in the north, but like most people, we followed the work, and that's sort of why we have offices in London and Manchester and Scotland and so on too. But essentially, the company was founded in the north. So that's us. You'll find out more about us as you go through the course. Just to explain a little bit about the Chartered Institute of Building, some of you will maybe already have some form of membership or will have some background knowledge, but as you're going to be working towards full corporate membership of it, it's useful that you know a little bit more about it. First thing to say is they've been around for a long time. You can see 1834 was when they're founded, originally as a contractors organisation. Had a meeting in a coffee house, a coffee shop, and you see some of the things in the minutes of the very first meeting that they talked about: contract conditions for a tender and an impending strike by construction workers. And I guess that always makes me think, how many times have we talked about those things since 1834? So whilst the industry has changed, some of the key issues and the problems that we have remain the same, no matter what era that we're working in. It was renamed then the Institute of Builders, and I've highlighted their stated purpose at that time. Now, the language may seem a little bit dated, but it's still relevant today. CIOB is about promoting excellence in construction. Okay, so it's we all have a job to do. We all have deadlines to meet, clients to keep happy, and so on. But what CIOB is all about is do the best that you can, no matter what you do. Push you to as far as you can go. So that is still very relevant today. Now, the second bit of language is very dated, but again, it's still relevant. Just an honourable practice in the conduct of business. In other words, don't be a dodgy builder. Everybody has standards to uphold. We'll talk in the course about ethics, and there are requirements that you sign up to whenever you become a member of CIOB. Skipping forward then to the 1950s, they got involved in courses. That would be the forerunners of the sort of stuff that you're doing today. So they've always been involved in accrediting courses from, as I say, very junior courses right up to accrediting degree courses all over the world. In the 60s, they recognized that the construction industry and managing the construction industry was not all about contractors. I know a lot of you sitting there today are contractors, but we get a lot of people, members in the CIOB, who are not main contractors. 10 years ago, the majority of people sitting in any of my classes were contracts managers, site managers, and so on. Now, I say we have building inspectors, clients, reps, QSs, all sorts of people looking for this type of role. So that was a reflection, changing it from Institute of Builders to Institute of Building. They're a charity, okay? So yep, you pay subs every year once you get in, but that is not some private organisation who are out to make a profit. All of the money is ploughed back into the industry, and that helps them. For example, at the minute, the last 6 months, they've been doing lots of stuff to help members through COVID, and in some cases dealing with redundancies and mental health issues and so on. So they don't sit on that money that you use as subscription. It is used for the benefit of the members. It's an international organisation. Obviously, it's biggest in Ireland and the UK. But 20% of the membership and growing is from overseas. And what that means is you've got recognition anywhere in the world. Don't know if any of you have ever thought or plans in the future to work in different countries, but the benefit of that is your MCIOB is valid all over the world. So you go somewhere and you say, I've got a certificate from Bolton Street, or you've done some qualification here. The bottom line is, they might recognize that. You take your MCIOB, that's recognized all over the world. It's also good for networking as well. I know people have emigrated, and you know, you make a new start in the country and you're thinking, how do I get to know people and make good contacts? And one of the ways to do it is to go to the CIOB events. A big step forward was in 1980 when they received the permission to appoint people as chartered. So you'll be familiar with lots of other charters, you know, chartered surveyors, chartered engineers, chartered architects, chartered accountants. Essentially what you're aiming for here is chartered construction manager. Okay, so you're on a level with all of those other organizations, and that's why there are responsibilities that go with it. When you see charter, you know, your doctors get a charter. You expect people who are chartered to uphold certain values and certain standards, and that's why, again, ethics is very important when it comes to membership. Now, when I joined in the 1990s, I was allowed to call myself a chartered builder, which was fine because that's what I was at that time. But there's a lot of people who work in construction who would not classify themselves as such as a builder. So again, another big step forward was back in 2013, where they also were granted the authority to give people a choice. And on your application form next year, when you choose, you tick a box. Do you want to be known as a chartered builder or a chartered construction manager? That is entirely up to you, but I know the vast majority of people select chartered construction manager because it covers a much wider range of job descriptions. So that's CIOB. Something I would suggest is that you go and have a little bit of a search around their website. So there's the link to the website. I'm going to stop the share just for a second and actually bring up the website to let you see. So you can do this in your own time, obviously, but hopefully you can all see the CIOB's website on the screen there. You will, I would suggest, want to register as a student member. It's 38 quid sterling for a year, and it brings you lots of benefits, but you don't have to. And to do your registration, you do it on the website. I will cover that at the next session. Don't worry about that, because the first thing you need to do is fill in the course registration form so that they are, apologies, so that they are aware that you are actually registered on a course. One thing I want to show you straight away is events. Okay, so used to be, obviously, pre-COVID days, you looked out for things that was happening close to you, and you could have gone to breakfast seminars, lunchtime seminars, evening seminars, and so on. I guess one of the silver linings at the minute is, with everything being online, you can go to events anywhere in the world. So at the moment, you can browse events. And as an example to you, at 1 o'clock today, I'm going to this webinar. It's an hour, 1 to 2. It's a building safety update and quality review. So in the UK, you've got the new building safety regulations coming in post Grenfell fire. That's going to make big changes to how the industry is regulated. So there's a free seminar. Now that's run by the CIOB Northern Region, which is Manchester and Yorkshire and so on, but anybody can go to that. There's something in the Belfast group. It's a free 1 hour asbestos awareness CPD. There's something from Qatar about construction in Qatar. There's a conference this week on traditional buildings. So, you know, there's 14 pages of these events coming up in the next few weeks. These are all free. I mean, I only go to a small portion of them, but I see something and go, I've got a free half hour there, I've got a free hour. It's a typical webinar. You can log in, and if it's not your thing, log out. You know, it's not like you've driven somewhere. I remember actually a couple of years ago, I was in Scotland in a hotel room waiting to go and deliver a course in Scotland, and CIOB Dublin and Health Services Executive ran a fire safety webinar. It was 8 o'clock in the morning in Facebook's HQ in Dublin. Would I have driven down to Dublin for 8 o'clock in the morning to watch that? No, I wouldn't. But I stuck it on my iPad in my hotel room while I was waiting for the taxi. I watched a couple of guest speakers talk about fire safety. So it's a useful way to kind of expand your knowledge to find out about areas that you mightn't have otherwise thought about without having to go somewhere. So definitely that's a big area to look at whenever it comes to increasing your knowledge. And I say, as a member, it's all free to you. They also have a YouTube channel. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff in the channel that will be of little or no interest to you. There's some self-promotion videos and things, and people talk about how they got into the industry and so on. But there's also some really good stuff there. So there's dozens and dozens of videos on there, and they tend to be quite short, 4 or 5 minute long. So that's something, again, have a browse through from time to time. You can search videos and search for different topics as well. So that's another resource. You don't have to be a member for this. It's another resource that's available for anybody to be able to use. Okay, so I will have more websites that I want to show you, but just back to the presentation again, just to introduce you to another couple of things. So that is the website. I would suggest you have a look at that between now and next week if you can. And also the YouTube channel. So there is a link to the YouTube channel if you want to spend a bit more time on that. Now, I've mentioned that at the minute, you can apply for student membership. That will be part-time student membership. As I say, it's £38 sterling a year, but that will cover you for all of next year. And also, whenever you go up to full membership, they don't charge you in the first year. So it's probably worth your while paying that. It'll save you a bit of money in the long term. What you will then do when you finish this course, you go up to applicant grade. You then fill in your professional review application. And whenever we say that that's filled into our satisfaction, you immediately become MCIOB. So you can use the letters after your name. You can call yourself a chartered builder or a chartered construction manager. There's lots of other things that go on. That we've got a good few staff in the Ireland region. We organise the Construction Manager of the Year Awards, which takes place every couple of years. We were due to have one in March 21. I think we're going to put it back a year, just in light of everything that's going on. But there's the big ticket events like that some of you may have seen, or maybe even some colleagues have been involved with. And as I said, there's also the local stuff as well. And I say we've 4 or 5 staff members in CIOB in Ireland who are there to help with different things. So you're paying a membership, you might as well use it. I would suggest that you just find out a little bit more about what everybody does. For those of you that might consider yourself still in the younger bracket, there isn't actually an age limit to this, but what we talk about is if you're in your first 10 years of your construction career, we encourage you to join what's called the Novus group. We're always looking for volunteers there. We're trying to get younger people engaged. CIOB membership sometimes tends to be something that people consider when they get on a bit in their career, and we're trying to say, listen, we should be bringing people in a lot earlier. So if you fall into that category, take a look at Novus. If you don't, if you know other younger people that you work alongside, encourage them to come there. They do lots of CPD events like the main CIOB group does, but they also, again, in normal times, organise, more social outings and stuff like that that people can get to know each other and support groups for people who are just starting out in posts and things like that as well. Now, to become fully chartered, you need 3 things. You need a suitable academic qualification, which is normally a degree or this course. Okay, now you will get this course a lot more quickly than it will take you to get a degree. And the reason is because you all have good experience. Okay, you've all been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You've got a good degree of experience already under your belt. So that is why at the end of this, you can say you have got the equivalent of an honours degree. So the course gives you the academic qualification. Your CV shows that you've got 5 years experience, and your professional review is your written application, which asks you to detail your experience to date. And again, I say that's something that will help you through when the time comes. So the immediate task for all of you is to complete this course, the Chartered Membership Program. The course has 4 modules: construction technology, management, contracts and commercial practice, and health, safety, and the environment. Depending on what your current job role and experience is, some of those you will find fairly straightforward. So for example, if you're used to being on site, you will find that construction technology is relatively straightforward. If you have a background in quantity surveying or estimating, you will find that contracts and commercial practice is fairly straightforward, but nobody will find all 4 straightforward. Typically, you'll find 1 or 2 of the modules in your comfort zone because you've already done them, and you'll find a couple of them new. Okay, so don't panic. We're not trying to turn you into quantity surveyors or turn you into site managers if you're not a site manager. It's just giving you an overview of all of the main areas that you need to know to be a competent chartered construction manager. Just to give you a little bit more detail, so for example, health, safety and environment, we won't try and replicate the SMSTS course or the Managing Safely in Construction course. We concentrate in very specific areas. So for example, asbestos. Risk is always a one we spend quite a bit of time on because that's a popular assignment question. So risk registers, risk assessments, method statements. UK's the CDM regulations, obviously in Ireland it's the construction regs. Do a bit about traffic management, a bit about accidents, and then a colleague of mine, Walter Marks, comes in for a couple of sessions on the environment. So environmental legislation, waste, pollution, flora and fauna, wildlife, you know, what to do if you find bats and badgers and Japanese knotweed and all that sort of stuff. My colleague Paul Andrews will do the construction technology module, and that basically takes a building from bottom up. Okay, so we start with ground conditions, excavations, substructures. We work up through the construction of a building. We do a session on working on existing buildings. We do a session on services. Considered constructors, which has in the past been predominantly a UK thing, but I know it's starting to creep into Dublin as well. And CIOB are involved in the considered constructor scheme, and there's been a question on it once in the past. So we'll have a short session on that, and we'll also have a session that looks at the sort of design and planning considerations that you need to consider whenever you're constructing a building. The management module is quite an interesting and varied one, and it's sort of split between proper construction management stuff like innovation, like doing programs, like how you manage defects, but also what I call the softer skills of things like people management and how to manage teams and how to motivate people and how to be a good leader. So that's quite a varied unit there. And then contract commercial practice is sort of the money module. So we do things like look at how we do budgets and costs for projects, a little bit about commercial risk management, a bit about procurement and tendering, contract administration, what the things that you have to do to satisfy a contract. And I hopefully will have our construction law expert in for a session, and he usually does a session on dispute resolution. So those are the 4 modules that you'll be covering over the coming weeks and months. All of the course materials, the presentations, handouts and so on, and copies of the videos go on a website, and that website is called Moodle. Okay, it's just the name of the website, and the form that I'll be asking you to fill in later today will give you access to this particular website. I'm just going to stop the share a minute again so that I can show you an example of what the website actually looks like. So share the screen again. So you will get an email from CIOB which will give you access to the site. Your course will be Stuart, obviously at the UK, June 2021. The rest of you at the Ireland, June 2021. But just to click in, for example, to the one that's just finishing, you will see a page like this. It gives you some contact details of people in CIOB if you need to talk to. Gives you the exam dates. Before you panic, it's not an exam. It's an open book coursework, but they still call it an exam for some reason. There's a candidate's handbook. There's some assignment guidance. Now, there's a scenario which I'll take you through on our first full session, but basically to give a little bit of context to what we're talking about, you're given a fictional project, which is an old fire damaged house that has been converted into a wedding venue, and any questions that we set are set as if that's the project that you're looking out there, that you're looking after. There are a very basic set of drawings, okay, that you can download, elevations and sections and so on. And there's also a little visualization. I'll not download it at the minute, it takes a few minutes, but it's a 3D video, a fly around of the building and through the building to show you the current condition of the building. So once you get access to this website, have a little look around. This is obviously a course that is coming close to being completed, so I have a lot of materials on here, but on every module, you'll see a little folder which will have the resources on it. So for example, health and safety resources, I click into that. There's the different presentations. So we had a presentation on asbestos. There's the PowerPoint. There's a little leaflet that I put up along with it, and there's the video. So if you miss a session, you can go back in, you can view the PowerPoint, or you can watch the video back. And sometimes, so for example, under risk, I gave you lots of examples of risk assessments and method statement templates and things like that. So any additional stuff I'll put up there. So effectively, this website is where you find all of your resources for the course. Okay, it's like a library for you. Even what you might find is, we're starting this course in November. You might get a question in June on a topic that was November. You might want to go back and rewatch a video or something like that, just to give you a bit of a reminder. So one of the most important things I'll be asking you to do today is later on, I'll be sending you the registration form. It takes you 2 minutes to fill it in, get it filled in, email it back to me, and that will get you registered in this. So when we meet again, one of the questions I'll be asking you all is, have you got registered onto Moodle? Excuse me. So that is Moodle, the website. You'll get an email separate from CIOB. It'll give you a username, which is normally your initial of your first name plus your surname, so like R. Gillespie, and it will generate a random password for you, which it will then ask you to change. The people named at the top, particularly Audrey and Mandy, are very, very helpful. So if there's something I can't help you on, like getting access to the website or whatever, Audrey and Mandy are two very helpful individuals there. Right, back to the presentation for a minute. So that's Moodle. That is the scenario. That's a screen grab from the project that is this year's scenario. You can see it's a nice old house, stone-built house, and it's had a fire in the kitchen, and it's going to be converted into a wedding venue. And there's issues there, like the reinstatement of that and bringing it up to meet current sort of disability access and fire safety requirements, and being as a public venue. So those are all things that we'll discuss to give it a little bit of realism. And also any coursework that you're given will relate to this. So if you get a health and safety question, it will be about this project. If you get a technology question, it'll be something on this project. So you won't get a random question about structural steel frames because this building doesn't have a structural steel frame. You'll get a question about something as if this is a project that you're involved in. Now, again, to put you at ease, hopefully, CIOB have this unfortunate habit of referring the end of course assessment as an exam. It's not an exam. It's only a few years ago that I used to come down to the Carlton Hotel at Dublin Airport on a Saturday and invigilate and sit. People did 3-hour exam in the morning and a 3-hour exam in the afternoon, and they did that twice a year to get through this. Fortunately, we have moved on from exam days, and it's an open book assessment. It's basically submitting coursework. So you will do that next June. They're twice a year. There's a group just about to do it, but this class is obviously timed to finish next June. And next June, you have a 12-day window to submit a piece of coursework on each of the 4 modules. So you'll submit a health and safety question, a technology question, a contracts commercial practice question, and a management question. And you have a choice to pick from. So you'll look at a bank of questions and you've got to submit one on each of those. We don't know those questions until you do. They all come out in June, and you've got that 12-day window. As a guide, each response needs to be about 1,500 or 2,000 words. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, is that a lot? It's not. Trust me, it's not. If you were doing a diploma, if you were at university, you'd been a lot more words than that. So that's actually relatively short that you have to do. We will give you a lot of help in that. We will give you practice ones to do. There is no absolute requirement for you to submit those. You don't lose out, but I would strongly recommend if we give you practice coursework to do it. Most of you will know the topics. You're sensible people. You've worked in the industry for a long period of time. Anything you don't know, hopefully we'll have covered the gaps, or you can go and find it online. So it's not a lack of knowledge that will trip you up on this. It's the fact that for some of you, it might have been a long time since you put a bit of coursework together. So that's where we come in. That's where we will give you a session on that. and we will give you practice ones to do. And even if it's a half-hearted attempt, still send it in to us, because we can give you some feedback. And that is where you will get some one-to-one chats with Paul and myself to so you can ask questions and just generally us give you a steer about how we feel that you're getting on. I know that in the current environment, you hardly know what you're doing next week or next month, never mind next June, but the actual dates are already set. The questions will be released on the Moodle website at 12 noon on the 3rd of June, and you must have them completed and uploaded back onto the website by 12 noon on the 15th of June. So that's your 12-day period. I had a guy that worked for Collins a couple of years ago who did his questions from Florida because he had the family at Disney World. He took the laptop with him, probably took the edge off his holiday a little bit, but he still did it. I had a guy from Glasgow last year who was driving Route 66 in America with his wife, and he brought the laptop with him, and he did a couple of hours each evening, and he got through it. However, if you could put those dates in your diary next June and protect them as much as you can. If you can book a day or two off, even better, but just be aware that that will be a busy period. You won't find yourself too much pressed for time between now and June. We have weekly 1-hour sessions. You've got the odd bit of coursework to do, but that will be a busy 12 days. So just protect your time as much as you can during that period. I mentioned the handbook, which is on Moodle. Okay, so it's not a very interesting document. You don't have to read it, but just to draw attention, there is a kind of standardized course handbook, which gives you some detail, things about what to do if you have any particular educational needs, or you wish to appeal if you feel that you've been marked down wrongly or whatever. So it's there for if you want to have a look at it. But to be honest, there's not much in it that we won't have already told you in the course. About May time, CIOB will issue more guidance about the open book assessment. And again, we'll take you through that. There are precautions in place to stop people copying. So plagiarism, you can't just copy and paste lots of stuff off the internet and pass it off as your work. Of course, you can research stuff, but you have to present it in your own words. So there's a piece of software called Turnitin that you put your coursework through, which self-checks it and will tell you if the percentage that you've copied is too high. And again, we'll take you through that. You can use, your assignments don't all have to be text. You can use little sketches, whether they're your own sketches or whether they're ones that you've taken from textbooks or the internet, diagrams, tables, models, flowcharts, even photographs. I had a site manager for a fit-out company a couple of years ago, and we got a basement question, and he'd just finished a retail fit out in the centre of London, and they had tanked the basement, and he had to take hundreds of photographs to satisfy the clerk of works. And we got a basement question and the technology question, and he used some of his photographs in his answer to actually show, you're showing your experience. I understand how to tank a basement, and here's a job I've actually done it on. So you can use some of your own stuff. If you get a health and safety question about risk assessments, method statements, you can use your own company templates to submit those as your answers. Ultimately, what you're all aiming for is a pass, okay, which is 50%. But this little chart, this is available for you on the Moodle website too. But basically, it shows, there's fails. Well, they don't call it a fail. Referral, a pass is 50% or above, then up to a merit and a distinction. It's great to aim for merits and distinctions, and I'll push you to do that. But the bottom line is, if you get 4 passes, you've passed. If you get 4 distinctions, you've passed. So, nice to aim for, but they don't really count for anything in the long run. One word of warning, sometimes people perform less well in their strongest topics because they become complacent. They think, I know all about that. So, I've seen it even some companies where they've had a planner doing programs, and we've had a programming question, and they've kind of just banged out a normal program, where somebody else who doesn't normally do programs has done a program and all sorts of notes explaining how they've done it, and they end up getting higher than the person whose job it is to actually do programs. So just be careful. Don't be complacent if it's a topic that you're really strong in. Sometimes people leave that to the last and just bang something out in the last few hours, and that's actually where people get caught out sometimes. I've already sort of said this, but use your experience. The introductions this morning was useful. You've all sound like you've got good experience, so use that, get that across. It's not all textbook answers. Almost write your assignments as if you're sitting in front of the examiner explaining to them that you know about this topic. So don't be afraid to draw on your own experience and you know, give examples where you've actually done things on projects you've been involved with in the past. Now, I did mention there's a couple of textbooks that I'll draw your attention to, but you don't have to get them by any means. There's a lot of very, very useful websites. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these, but let me show you some. So I'll just stop the share again and go back to my web browser. And again, this is a little bit of action for you between now and the next session. So I've already shown you the CIOB web page and their YouTube page. Let me show you Designing Buildings. Designing Buildings is a really good resource of a website. It has news articles on the homepage, but it has a search facility. You can see CIOB are one of the co-sponsors of it. So let's say Paul gives you a question on foundations. You just go into the search bit there and type foundations. There you go. Very simple article on foundations. So different types of foundations, shallow foundations, deep foundations, split into strip, pad and raft, piles, mini piles, and so on. And any one of those, okay, we might need a strip foundation in this job. Click into it for a bit more info. So there's strip foundations. It gives me a couple of paragraphs on it. Click into it again. Oh, there's a much more detailed article about strip foundations with little sections and details and so on. So this is a really good resource, especially for, well, actually for quite a lot of the course, it's very useful. A word of warning, it is predominantly, it references UK legislation. The examiners are predominantly UK based. So when you're responding, you are entitled to base your answers on the jurisdiction that you live and work in. So you don't have to reference UK health and safety legislation or UK building regs. That's why we have the two different classes. 90% of this course is the same, but there are some areas where we diverge slightly. And obviously this group, we will be talking about Irish health and safety legislation, Irish building legislation, and so on. So just be careful when you're using these sites sometimes that you don't quote UK legislation when in fact the rest of your assignment you're talking about Irish legislation. So that's a really good website. Construction Manager, that is the magazine of the CIOB. I get a hard copy of that once a month. You can also look at digital copies online. Do I read it cover to cover? No. But I have a glance, like any good magazine, I have a glance at the contents and I go, is there any article there that catches my eye? Is there anything there I'd like to look through? There's an article on the Curragh Racecourse redevelopment. As an example, it focuses projects. It talks about current things. So, you know, there's a piece there about trying to imagine how the office might change post COVID-19 and how that might, what impact that might have be for fit-out companies and construction companies and so on. So, you know, look, you see it's a 60-page nearly magazine. I would have a flick through that every month. Also on their homepage, Construction Manager, there is every past edition of the magazine going back about 6 or 7 years. Again, I'm not suggesting you go back and read them all, but if you want to click into one or two and see the sorts of things that we're talking about. Also on their homepage, constructionmanagermagazine.com, there is a register feature. So if you refresh the page or you go onto it for the first time, there will be a little box comes up in the bottom asking you to put in your email, and that sends you a little digest every morning of the current top stories. So I would suggest that, you know, you register for that. It's free. It doesn't spam you with lots of stuff. Some of the stories I click into, some of them I just delete and never bother reading. But it gets you into the way of understanding what are some of the current issues. Construction Inquirer is another magazine, very similar. You can see daily email sign up. That you can get a digest sent to you every day. So these are sort of things. They're 5-minute reads, and it keeps you abreast and up to date of things that are current in the industry. Some other things just to show you. Constructing Excellence website's not bad. I'll use it for some case studies. The CIOB library, once you get your student membership, you have free access to a very large library resources of both online materials and also good old-fashioned borrowing books. So you can pick a textbook, you can ask it to be sent to you, you keep it for 2 or 3 weeks and you post it back to them. And there's also lots of online resources there too. So that's free to use as a CIOB member. And also, once you sign up, you'll also have access to the CIOB Academy. You can see at the minute there's 154 free CPD talks on there. Now, a lot of them you might not be interested in, but I would take a look through. Some of them are just things that maybe different companies have put up. Sometimes, you come into your office or they come into your site and they give you a talk on a new product. Some of them are like that, but there's some interesting ones there too. And even the ones where you see £10 plus VAT or whatever, you see it's free as a member. So once you've got your membership, all of these are accessible, and you can have a look through the likes of those to see are there any that you'd like to spend a bit of time looking through. So those are just some of the resources that I would suggest for you. They're all free, and you may have your own favorites. I've put in, there's Construction News in Ireland, and there's the CIF's magazine, and there's the Irish Building magazine as well, that I've given you links to there. But you might have some of your own favorites, and feel free as you get through the course, if there's any in particular that you think might be useful to share with people, just let me know. So again, put those in your favorites, have a look through that's kind of a task for the next week or so. Between now and next June, then we will have around about 34 one-hour webinars. Okay, and those will be typically every Wednesday at 11:30 and every Friday. I've left the AM off there, but one Friday per month at 11:30. Okay, so we haven't got 34 weeks between now and June, so I have to squeeze an extra session in once a month. But typically, block out in your diary 11:30 to 12:30 on a Wednesday and one Friday per month at the same time. You'll also have a number of one-to-one sessions with myself and Paul, and we organise those at times and dates to suit you. So those won't be at the Wednesdays or Fridays. Those are first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening, whatever suits you best to do that. And remember, I always encourage you to go to the live course, but if you can't make it, the session will be recorded. It'll be up on the Moodle website that same day, and you can watch it back anytime from then. And I encourage you to try and keep up to date with things as you go. Don't leave too many of them to build up to try and watch in one go. If you haven't seen this before, again, I'll put it up on Moodle and I'll share it by email, but these are the proposed provisional dates. They're 90% confirmed. There's occasionally we miss something, somebody's ill, somebody's unexpectedly has an appointment, but pretty much those are the dates that we'll try to keep on, so you can block them out in your diary. So you have this course that runs through to June. You've got the 2-week window in June to submit your assignments. CIOB will mark and verify that over the summer. You will receive your results in August. You should expect good news. We would have a success rate in the 90%. And the very small number that slipped through the net first time, we always mop up second time. Worst case scenario, you fail something in June, you get a free reset. You don't have to reset the whole course. You just reset any coursework that you didn't get through, and you do that in November, and that's free of charge. And we have 100% record when it comes to that. So I'm not saying that the course is going to be really easy, but you should be entering it with the expectation that you will pass. So you get your results in August, and that's when you can start your professional review. I've already touched on that. It's just like a lengthy job application where you talk about yourself. And as I said, the good news is we both mentor you through that, and we are the assessors. So it will be a case not if you get through that, just when you get through that. It could be quite conceivable that you're sitting here this time next year chartered, okay, with the MCIOB after your name and the chartered construction manager, to using your emails, to using your business card, or whatever you want. Now, just a few sort of words of encouragement. You're aiming for chartered, which is a big deal. Okay, it's something not to be sniffed at. It's a full professional qualification. CIOB had some research done that backs up the fact that you can say it's equivalent to an honours degree. So even in terms of pre-qualification questionnaires or job applications, you have got something that is up there with somebody who has a degree. It's all about keeping yourself up to date. As I say, it's not about burying your head in textbooks, but get onto those websites, do some reading. Little and often is going to be better. It's not that, I need to spend Saturday, working on the coursework or reading all day. Try and get into the habit of taking a few minutes each day to instead of whatever, reading the paper at the coffee break, or probably at the minute you don't even get time to do that. But, take 10 minutes in a day when you're having a cup of coffee and go on some of these websites and keep yourself updated that way. It's a short-term thing. You've got, I tell you, it goes in the blink of an eye. The folks that are about to do their exams next week are going to me, Roger, it seems like no time since we started. It's always the same. Okay, it seems a long time now, but you'll be sitting here in exactly the same position in June going, where did those 6 or 7 months go? So it's a short-term thing to give you long-term credibility. And, if you either preferably attend the sessions live or watch them back as we go and keep in contact with me, if you do that, I can almost guarantee you that you'll pass. And then if you want, you don't have to do this, you can have the day out. Okay, so that was a group of our candidates in Belfast last year who all went through it. You can have the day out, bring the family. That's when they kind of realize this is kind of a big deal. It is something. You don't have to do this. You can get the certificate sent to you if you're not one for the days out and so on. Hopefully we'll be back. That's the steps of the Mansion House in Dublin, another group of some of my candidates from last year. So we have a Saturday morning in the Mansion House. Bring the family up. Usually Lord Mayor Dublin, President of CIB is over, present you with your certificate, get your photograph taken, go out for lunch somewhere in Dublin afterwards. It's usually a good session, and it's worth the recognition. So that's something you could be hopefully looking forward to whenever this is all done. And the form that I'm going to send you is this. It's a simple one-pager. I'll be sending you that this afternoon. Put your details on it. Make sure you use an email address that you're always going to have access to, where it says other qualifications held. Don't worry too much about that. You don't have to have any qualifications beyond that. You'll be taking this June 21, and you'll be with the exception of Stuart, you'll be in the Ireland June 21 group. And then the bottom third of the form, I fill that in and sign it and scan it and send it off to CIOB. And within a day or two, you should get an email saying, here is access to the course website. So that's something collectively, if we can all get our act together, if I can get the form out to you, if you can get it filled in and back to me, I'll get it over to CIOB, and hopefully we'll all be sitting here this time next week with you registered on Moodle, and we'll not have to use YouTube to put the recordings on. So our next session, when we'll start the course in earnest, is next Wednesday, 11th of November at 11:30. And I hope as many of you as possible can make that. And at this stage, just that is your induction. I'm going to stop the share so that I can see you again on the screen, and just open it up if anybody's got any questions, comments, anything they're not sure about. Okay, so either I did an absolutely brilliant job with that induction.
Sorry, can I just come in? You mentioned
yes, Stuart.
Textbooks. You mentioned you might be a couple of textbooks useful.
Yep.
Can you give me the name of them, please?
I can, Stuart. I'll email them over to you, but right. you won't need them this year. They're both in topics that are in 2021.
Okay, no problem.
There's one for management and one for contracts and commercial practice. They're about, they fluctuate 30 quid each, but don't go out and buy them just for the sake of buying them. Have a look at them first before you decide if they're going to be useful for you or not.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Anybody else?
Yeah, sorry, Roger. I know we're quick.
That slideshow has to be up on Moodle, will it?
It will indeed. Yep. It'll be in Moodle. So the sooner you get the forms in and get onto Moodle, the slideshow and this video. But I'm also putting the video on YouTube just this once as well.
Roger, is there previous examples of like assessments from the last couple of courses, where would you see them, just to get a feel for what's going
There
on?
is. Once you get access to Moodle, there are some past questions and also some past exemplar answers. So I'll probably, when we do the assignment session, which is quite early, I'll probably I'll take you through and show a few of those, but you can find them yourself on Moodle as well.
Okay, perfect, great.
If you can all get onto Moodle for next week, I'll spend the first 5 minutes just showing you Moodle to make sure everybody's got the login and everything sorted.
You're going to send us logins then for Moodle, is it? Do we need to fill in
I'm
that
going to
form?
send you the form, and when you send it back to me, I send it to CIOB, and they will
Okay.
send you a login directly to you. So look out for it. It might be an unusual email address that's giving you access to it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Any other questions, folks? Okay, great. Well, listen, nice to virtually meet you all this morning. If anyone's got any questions, sorry.
Just one quick, will we be getting meeting invites for all of these? Are they scheduled out? I know we have the agenda there. You're saying it's 90% fixed or 95%?
You could, yes, I will resend all the dates. And what I normally do is I send you a Zoom invite 24 hours beforehand. But you can put them all in your diary. They're as per the schedule, unless you hear otherwise. And if you haven't got an invite, the reason Stuart's on here today is that somehow between my email inbox or outbox and his, he didn't receive the invite for the earlier one today. It does happen sometimes. So if you know there's to be a session, drop me an email or drop me a text to say, hey, Roger, is there not a session today? Because I haven't got an invite. But pretty much you can take every Wednesday bar, obviously the holidays, there will be a session at 11:30, and one Friday per month there'll be a session at 11:30 as well. Okay, all good, folks?
Perfect.
Great. Well, great to get started. Any questions in the meantime, drop me an email or give me a call, and I look forward to seeing you all again next Wednesday.
Thanks, Roger.
Okay. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Roger.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.